Hey guys, well here we are at a another shave. It is the see I need bifocals, right? It's the 6th of August, and we are going to do the Austere August shave. Um, Meaning I'm going to use the same gear that I'm going to use all month, and I'm going to put the boar brush back in the water. This is the Semogue Taj Semogue Owners Club with the Taj handle. Have my little syringe for adding water later. I'm going to be looking in a weird place on this because the camera is flip-flopped, and so I'm used to the lens being on one side of the camera, but it's actually on that side. Um, the Piccolo, and so when I bring things up to show them to you, they'll probably end up on this right here first until I correct myself. Piccolo handle, special edition, Fatip razor, open comb base plate. I'll open it up here, and here's the blade right here. And I'll show it, slowly manipulate it without dropping it. There's the 3 dots there. I hope the resolution comes out okay when it's like this. Unfortunately, this camera doesn't seem to focus well when I hold things close to the camera. It's a new one, and I haven't quite figured out that trick yet. All right, so we're going to take that marathon. Oh, you can also see the glinting off the corner up there, the bend that the blade picked up in use number 225. And with Vetips, I find that a simple drop of each item onto the top cap and then screwing in 50% of the time will end up in proper alignment. So let's check it. Ah, nice. Yep, there we go. Just finish tightening it up all the way there. So the Nacet is in place. Here's his little card, but he's pretty much full with 300 dots. And so what I have started to do is track the over 300 dots on this index card, and then I place the Nacet wrapper inside here. So we're looking at 308 today. And here's the MdC soap. I think I can see a slight, yeah, at least a millimeter around the edges has worn down, and then probably another millimeter in the center. So the reason I chose this soap for use during the month of August is because I want to see. This is an expensive soap. I have found out during this month that it's not a particularly well-performing soap. So it loses ground in that department. The scents are interesting, and so but there are a few of them, and if you like a particular scent especially, then obviously that could play into your desire to have this soap. But there are many other soaps that perform better and have a better variety of scents. Where this guy seems like he might excel is the number of shaves you're going to get per tub, and that is what this month will help me to learn more about. It's a good soap. Let's say that. It's a good soap. It's a vegan soap, but there are vegan soaps that perform much better. Dr. John's, the new version of Southern Witchcrafts, is much better than this. Katie's Bubbles is another vegan soap that performs better. Soap Commander, Wickham, and I just had a conversation online in the comments there, one of the videos I believe, where a person mentioned Wickham, and I think that is a very reasonable and fair brand to compare this to, because Wickham is a soap from England and similar lather, but I believe Wickham is a little better. And then Wickham, I think, has a nicer array of scent choices, and their pricing is pretty low, and I think it would take me forever to use up a tub of Wickham. And so right now, if I had to choose, I would definitely go with Wickham over MdC. This is the Vetiver scent. I started out liking it. I think as this month goes on, I'm liking it a little bit less and less. But we'll just keep using it. Maybe at the end of the month, I will take it and trade it for somebody else's another tub of MdC. I know I like the Fougere scent better, but it was a little bit too light. But maybe I needed to use it more. Maybe my nose was different back then. So that's a candidate. That's a candidate for a trade later on. All right, but it is giving me comfortable shaves, good shaves. It feels slick on the face when it's all over my face. So it's a good soap. I just think maybe, and this is what I was coming along to say, is that there are other soap bases that have come along that have improved and are better in terms of performance. Where this guy may beat them, may be cost. We'll see about that. No need, something I also learned this month, no need to bloom it at all. It's a hard soap, but you do not need to bloom it. For the post shave, we'll have something that just keeps my skin feeling good, and it does not have any scent on it. Integrity from Soap Commander, a very good balm making company. Most of theirs have menthol, but this is the one out of their collection that does not. They do make a Integrity balm that does have menthol. That's the one that comes in 2 variations. Let's take an aside to say a couple things. Number one, the way this camera is positioned, I have it on a towel bar, and there's a sock underneath it to keep it from moving around when I touch the button, because this is my new phone and I don't have a case for it yet, so it's easy to fall off. But I am really enjoying easier access to the pause button when I have to go do something outside of the camera view that I don't really want to use your time to do. And so I'm really enjoying that. I do have a mount on the way and also have some cases on the way, so that's pretty cool. I'll look forward to using those. Second aside is that I wanted to say that I believe his YouTube nickname was And Why. Recently responded to his post, and I figure I'd put a little bit in the video to answer his question. He just bought a boar brush, a Semogue 830. That was actually my first boar brush too. Bought before I knew about all the different nice forums that were out there to help folks out, like Badger and Blade, Damn Fine Shave, and especially the ones that I have found a lot of help in, the Reddit sub forums like Wicked Edge, and especially Wet Shaving. And before I knew about all those, all I knew about was the Amazon comments, because that's where I bought that brush. It was a real chore, a frustrating experience to use that brush for the first 8 or 10 uses. But then when I hit use number 15 or so, it started acting like a normal brush. It was soft on the face, it was comfortable, it had enough splay, and that caused it to be able to hold enough soap to last the whole shave. And so from that point on, it was like if a switch flipped on one of those days, and I was like, oh, this is what people are talking about. This is great. But before that, I was fussing, I was frustrated. That's just the way boars are. Now, a couple of things that are going to happen during a boar break-in. A natural break-in process. The 2 things that will happen are, number 1, the knot will start narrow, but it'll gradually open up. That will help it to be able to hold more lather. Before that happens, in the first 8 or so uses, 8 or 12 uses of that 830, I had to go back to the soap puck before each pass, because it wouldn't hold enough soap. I guess it was too narrow. It wouldn't hold enough soap to give me a 3-pass shave. And so, but don't worry about it. Just go back to the soap, work it up, and put it on your face, and keep going. In a couple of weeks of uses, it will be fine, and you won't need to do that anymore. The second thing that needs to happen as boars age and break in is the tips will split. Now, when I say it broke in 15 uses or so, I don't actually mean it fully broke in. I don't mean the tips split and all that. They'll start to split by that point. Some of them will, in general. But what I'm saying is at about 15 uses, it got comfortable and it held the lather. That's what I mean. But from that point on, you can rely on those tips slowly splitting more and more and getting softer and softer. And then maybe by use 100 or 200, you've had 85 really nice shaves by use number 100, comfortable shaves that have been getting softer and softer and softer as you've gone. So that's what you can expect from a boar brush. It's rough in the beginning, but just keep using it. If you want to speed it up a little bit, my tendency is just to soak it for an hour before each use. That helps it a little bit without being too harsh. I don't recommend the fridge soak method, the hair dryer method, the leave lather in it method, or what are some other common ones? Yeah, anyway, I don't really recommend those. I just recommend using it because I personally want it to break in and kind of that when I'm thinking in my mind about those tips splitting, and when you're thinking about something fracturing and a crack happening, I want that crack to go in the best way possible down the fiber of the hair. And so I don't want it to be too fast. And so that's my goal. I want it to go down in the best way because I've definitely heard of people being a little bit too harsh with their brushes in some kind of shortcut method. And then what happens is those little splits, they just break off and they're left with one tip instead of 2 or 3. So I don't want that to happen. I figure I take a conservative approach to it. There may be some of the accelerator methods that help you out that are good and safe, but I don't have the time to figure out which ones. And there are some videos out there that talk about an old Italian barber who breaks in his brushes a certain way, like in cold water or something like that. Well, an old Italian barber is likely to use a brush until it's done, throw it away, and start up the next one. He's not concerned with enjoying that brush for 10 or 20 years like I am. And so I think it's natural for our break-in processes to be very different. He needs to use one up when it's not quite, when it's done, he can throw it away, and he needs to get one in action quickly. So I think his goals are different from mine. All right, so there are my asides, and hopefully that answers some boar questions, because I sure would hate for somebody to get a boar and be frustrated because it's acting like a young boar. That's why I use that phrase a lot on my channel. I'd hate for them to be frustrated because it's acting that way, because that's what it's supposed to do. It's like a baby. You only have to tend to it for the first while, and then it can take care of itself. All right, now let's look at some lessons that I've learned so far with this soap. A little recap. It works just fine when you come at the soap with a wet brush, a halfway wet brush, an almost dry brush. You'll get the same lather, or it's possible to get the same decent lather no matter how you come at the soap. All right. Also, if you put too much water in it, it's a good enough quality soap where it holds together and doesn't break down. It won't feel luxurious in your fingers, that sort of thing, but it will be slick on your face and it will give you a good cut, good shave. Another thing, when I personally make it to where I hold back on the water a little bit so it has a creamy feel, by the time I put that on my face, it is too dry and needs more water. And we've already covered the last one. No need to bloom it. There we go. All right, let's roll. Blades in the razor. Let me get my face wet. All right, what are we going to try today? We're going to reduce. We're going to reduce the time. So let's try that out. I just did a really wet load the other day. I did a dry load. Now let's half the load time and see what happens. I usually start with 30-second loading. That's typically a good thing to start with on a lot of soaps. And so that's what I've been working with here. And many times I've ended up with 3 or 4 extra passes of unneeded, unused lather. So I'm going to use my normal wetness. I'm going to shake out much of the water to where it's just lightly wet. And then let's do a 15-second. Let me push down so I can see. There we go. Starting at 45. Now 15, 30, yeah. Yep. So just a 15-second lather load. And you can see the moisture in the brush is causing it to, oh, dang it, I did an 18-second lather, but not looking at the clock. That goes by fast. Okay, so I do collect a lot of the side, and sometimes I recommend doing that, sometimes I don't. It seems to be working fine with the MdC. Oh, and I don't have my, I forgot to grab my other lather bowl. So you know what we use today? We use this Dollar Tree lather bowl. This is the Santa Fe collection, available at the Dollar Tree in America. One of the things I like about it, look at the angle there. The flat spot at the bottom of the bowl is not all that big. And that means that the brush is going to come across the bowl floor there and hit an angle. And that will cause the bristles to flex, which causes it to agitate the lather. And that's my theory as to why this guy works well. So we'll put the brush down in that. And then let's use, this is actually a pretty good little face cleaner. Disrupt those oils that I have with my very naturally oily skin. There we go. And now let me pause you while I rinse off, clean up the jar. Like I said, I'm really enjoying the ease of pressing that pause button. It's the at the other location, I have to set the camera up on top of a bath cabinet, and so I have to reach kind of over the shelf of the cabinet to get to the pause button. But I've got a suction cup mount that should hold my phone really well, and I'll be able to put it in a better place. I'm looking forward to the videos from using that to be much more convenient. Now, because of the way I have to tilt the camera to keep it safely perched on the towel bar there, it doesn't tilt forward, and so I kind of will have to show you. But the lather is going to be pretty much the same as, and the process of doing what I'm doing right now is going to be the same as you've seen me do all month, pretty much. Now we know that quite a bit of water, usually 6 teaspoons, is what I use when I have 30 seconds of lather. So maybe, you know, let's keep an eye out between 3 and 4 teaspoons, since I went slightly over 15 seconds. That might be the right time to stop, but I'll use my same visual criteria. When I pull up and stretch it, you know, I'll watch for those things, and we'll just use that same criteria to know when to stop. Now this bowl, one thing it does is it, because it's a smaller bowl than that Quintero 3D printed bowl I usually use, and so your fingers will definitely get soapy in this one. And it is a bowl that I don't like to use when I have a big brush, like a 26mm Badger that has a lot of splay. But for this type of brush, it works great. Just a little messy on the fingers. Now I've just got 2 teaspoons of water in here, and I just wanted to make sure it was really mixed up. Oh, that's some elasticity right there, right? Nice. I may not want to go much more than this. That's the feel of it. It's got a little bit of creaminess to it, so that means I should probably keep adding. I don't want it to be too dry when I put it on my face. Let's go to 3 teaspoons. Really enjoying this brush. I may not be enjoying the scent of the soap quite as much as I once thought, but I'm enjoying the feel of the brush on my face with this soap. They work together well. Nice, comfortable, soft, luxurious feel because of the brush, the softness of the brush. And there are softer ones, but this one works well. I think we're almost done. And yeah, it looks like 18 seconds of lather is going to be plenty. So I'll bet I can reduce it. I forgot to weigh it. Well, looks like it'll be a few days before I am able to weigh this soap. I left my digital scale at home at my other place. Had to move out of my home and get a room for rent, but I still come back and visit occasionally. All right. And now I will rinse off the my face here. Okay. Oh, and then another commenter said that the sound was very low on one of my recent videos. That was probably on one that I was doing at about 1 a.m. And through the bathroom wall at that location is my roommate sleeping. So that's why it was quiet. So please, sorry about that, but just maybe turn your volume up. I'll try to shave it a better hour so I don't have to be quite so quiet. I know some guys have devices that may not pump that volume up very loud, so I want to make sure I can be heard, but not by somebody who's trying to sleep and go to work the next day. So like I said, this is in past videos, this is kind of a high structure lather. You can see how it's thick in places, and like that. Look at the guy right here. He's definitely not low and gluey. He has got some structure and kind of backbone to the lather. You can definitely add more water at this point if you want. Yeah, see, this is the point where the lather starts to fly off because there's just so much. What can you do about that? Just gather the excess up because you've probably got plenty on your face already. Just take the excess, put it back in your bowl. This is a great reason to use a bowl. I'll have to add that to my list of pros about using a bowl. So we took away the excess, and so now, of course, you'll notice that we have plenty of lather still on the face. Matter of fact, you know what? I could probably do this, and this, and this, take away even more. And I'm going to add some water. Add a little moisture to the lather. With other soaps that just are a little better, I would definitely keep on adding water, but this one has kind of told me that it doesn't like to have quite as much water. So we have I guess we just have 3.5 teaspoons of water into this lather. I don't think what we're looking at is 5.5. All right. I've got some traveling to do today. Oh, see, that is just lightly tuggy. Not bad at all for this blade. If you are in a situation where you're trying to get good uses out of your blade, maybe in your country the blades are expensive. One thing I've discovered is if it's tuggy on the first pass and smooth on the rest, I have a tendency to do this. Short strokes, and I'm repeating myself in certain areas. Well, on that tuggy pass, you can do longer strokes or don't repeat it in areas, and it'll cut down enough to where the next pass will be comfortable so that you're shortening the length of your tuggy pass. A phrase I never really thought I would say. And there we go. Quick half rinse. You know, if you want a speedy, no-nonsense shave, this may actually be a good choice for you, because it is it just doesn't have those butters and oils and things that are going to moisturize your skin to very much of a degree, and so it rinses very quickly. Now I've got kind of drippy water on my face, and that's going to help that kind of too thick mix in the first pass. It's going to help it to get a little bit more hydrated, and I don't have to work the brush very much on this second pass. I can just go right to shaving. Light touch with the razor. And barely any tugging at all on this pass. Then a half rinse. Now with a newer blade, the smoothness on my face I just felt would have come after the first pass, but it's okay. It happens after the second pass with this type of blade, but as long as it happens during the shave, get a nice close cut, I'm fine with that. See, look, 18 seconds of loading, and I still have a ton of lather. That is crazy. I will continue to reduce the load time. Now, I will definitely say that it depends on how often you use a soap. I am using this soap every day, and so the moisture that I am imparting from the brush to the soap puck, you can see the glistening. That is continuing on in the soap for the next day. If you, however, change and only use this soap once a month, or whatever, then that moisture content is going to change, and you may have to increase the load time depending on how often you use the soap. Now, this is a very comfortable shave, a lot of confidence here. I can feel like I can just zip around pretty fast. And if you're curious, I've said it before, but yes, that little bend in the blade, I can feel it. That side is just not as smooth as the other one, and rightly so, but it's still serviceable. And in a way, I'm glad, because it's another thing that helps me to authenticate this blade, and you guys can see the glinting and the light refraction from that curvy part. Sometimes easier than you can see my dots. Well, this was a nice shave. I'll probably have to do a touch-up pass here. So let us rinse. I like this ratio. I think this is pretty much perfect. At this third pass, I am feeling some residual slickness on my face, so that's nice. Kind of gives you a little bit more of a luxury feel. Cheeks, sometimes I could go against the grain on my cheeks, but on my neck I can't. It just lifts up those hairs and just seems to pull the hair into the path of the blade, and I end up with cuts and razor burn almost always. That was a nice slick shave. Now, depending on the consistency of your lather with this soap, you may, because it doesn't have a lot of those moisturizers and butters to kind of stay resident on your face, And so if your lather is kind of on the wet side, it may not be a good idea to come back and touch up an area unless you re-lather first. So pay attention to that. Before you go back to an area, just test it with your fingers. Feel how slick it is so that you'll know whether you're able to go back safely and work that area. If it doesn't feel super slick, then reapply some lather in that spot. I have 3 passes left over, and it was just an 18-second load. So like I said before, if you haven't used the soap in a while, a 20-second load might be where you need to do what you need to do because your soap just has dried out some. However, I may get down to like Chiseled Face. It was a 7-second load each day when I used the same soap over and over for bowl lathering, and that gave me 4 nice passes of lather. So we'll see what MdC is like, because obviously I can go lower than 15 seconds of loading. Pretty cool. All right, folks, there we go. And so now it's time for the balm. It is kind of thick, and I have oily skin anyway, so I like to put down a light layer of water. It just helps a little to go a long way, because I don't actually need a ton of moisturizing help here. I picked the unscented because in the beginning the strength of the Vetiver was really jumping out, and so I thought, hey, I'll get something that's not going to interfere or not going to get overshadowed by the Vetiver, and I just like this balm. It's a good balm. I thought it would be a good use during this month. I highly recommend Zingari Man balms as well, not because of personal experience, I haven't tried it yet, but because so many of the people that I have a relationship with online and trust their opinions, they recommend it so highly, and so they've kind of gotten a lot more of the press. Used to be this was one of the go-to recommended balms by Soap Commander, but it's kind of stepped back a little bit, but I think it's a terrific balm. I don't think it has lost any ground of its own merit. I just think maybe something else has stepped in. Maybe just because it's the new thing, you know, it could be. She's got some interesting scents. Although if you compare the scents of Soap Commander and Zingari Man, I think they're probably comparable. Kind of light in some respects. They both have like barber shops. They both have something spicy. So I think there's some parallels there. So give both a try. See what you like. All right. So yes, I'm going to assume that we didn't refill this again. And so 3 1/4 teaspoons of water for 18 seconds of loading with a lightly wet brush is what we're looking at today. Also want to take a minute to mention a little bit about traveling with brushes. Many people choose a synthetic brush when they want to travel. They release their moisture much more easily. You strap them on a towel, you wring them out, they just let go of the moisture because the bristles and the fibers there don't absorb the water. Boars are the exact opposite. They feel like a broom. They're very stiff at the beginning or when they're dry. And so that's why you have to soak them. I recommend at least 3 minutes before each shave to give the bristles enough time to soak the water in, and then they start to become flexible and soft, all right? Now, because of that, I don't really advise traveling with boars unless you are kind of a conscientious person to do a couple of things. I put my brush down. Oh, look at that splay now. He is getting a lot bigger. Just these guys have kind of been out here, but that area is thickening, the ones that are starting to come out. And that's what a Semogue Owners Club generally does. I'm really enjoying watching this happen. If you package it away in a tube, so if you have stored and transport your brush in a tube, kind of like I do, one thing I do is, of course, try to get as much water out of it as you can. I'll shake the excess water out in the sink, then I will strop it up and down on a towel, and that gets it to this point right here. and there is still a good bit of water in there. I put it in the tube, I wad up some tissue paper, and I put that in there as well because the tube has a little bit of length to it. That will help to act as a desiccant and give that water somewhere else to go. If you can't do that, you're probably still okay if you get where you're going in several hours or less, and then you can take the brush out of the tube and set it aside. Because what can happen if you don't do something like that is that the moisture inside can mold, mildew, that sort of thing. Don't want that. And the mold and mildew then will destroy your fibers and you'll have a shedding brush. Speaking of shedding, I'll also mention that anything less than about 50 uses or so, and I'm not concerned about 1 to 4 or 5 hair losses per shave. I am just not concerned about that at all. Even 20 losses in the first 10 uses or so can be typical, can be fine. It's uncommon, but it can still be okay as long as it peters off and reduces after that, because sometimes as they take all those hairs and then put them in some kind of machine and glue the end together, some of those hairs don't make it into the glue. And so you need to be the one to help get those out. And once those are removed, hopefully then it stops shedding. Very good. And we are done. I'm getting used to that vetiver scent, I think. I don't really smell it too much on me. I think it is about a mid-level scent. You can definitely enjoy it when you're using it. So 5 out of 10 in terms of scent strength, it seems. So I'm happy with that. All right, guys, we are good. I'm happy with the closeness of the shave, the feel. I didn't get any, of course, any cuts, but any irritation or anything like that. Really happy with it. All right, guys, I'm going to be doing some traveling, so we'll see what kind of arrangements I can make with my new phone at the other location. So you guys take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and I hope that in this video you have found something to help you out. Have a good day.